new nerd cereal is...
Reggie, the candy they named after me, with a rich caramel center.
Ever stroll down a grocery aisle and wonder, who on earth thought this was a good idea? From bacon-flavored water to glow-in-the-dark ketchup, the supermarket has seen its fair share of innovations that were more tragic than terrific. These weren't just flops. They were full-blown marketing disasters, doomed from the first bite or sip. So grab your shopping cart, leave your taste buds at home, and join us as we revisit 25 innovative grocery items that failed miserably.
Lifesaver soda, the best thing since sliced bread. If you love Lifesaver candies, then you will love this product.
Because clearly what the world needed was liquid candy masquerading as a refreshing beverage. In the 1980s, Lifesavers decided to transform its beloved hard candy flavors into a carbonated drink. Spoiler alert, no one was begging for a fizzy version of butterscotch or peppermint. Imagine cracking open a can and being greeted with syrupy sweetness so overpowering it made cola taste like mineral water. The novelty was fun for about 3 sips before regret set in. Shockingly, consumers didn't want to feel like they were drinking melted candy, and Lifesaver soda quickly fizzled into the abyss of failed innovations.
Hi, this is Britney Spears wishing you a happy Pepsi Blue Christmas.
Pepsi Blue was Pepsi's attempt to win over young consumers with a bold, flashy drink. Marketed as a berry-flavored soda with an electric neon blue color, it was designed to compete with Coca-Cola's Vanilla Coke and ride the wave of novelty beverages. The concept originated in the late 1990s, when extreme branding and youth-focused marketing were booming. However, the drink quickly became notorious for its overly sweet, almost candy-like taste that many compared to liquid cotton candy or cough syrup. Worse, its shocking blue dye often stained mouths and clothes, adding to the consumer backlash. Although Pepsi spent heavily on marketing, including endorsements from pop stars like Britney Spears, the taste was simply too divisive. By 2004, the product was discontinued in most markets. Pepsi Blue lives on as a cult curiosity, remembered more for its eccentricity than for any lasting success.
They chose Maxwell House coffee.
Maxwell House, a trusted household coffee brand, tried to innovate in the 1990s by launching a ready-to-drink iced coffee product. At the time, Americans were not yet accustomed to grabbing bottled coffee from convenience stores. This trend would only explode later with Starbucks Frappuccinos and other cafe-inspired drinks. Maxwell House's version suffered from bad timing, poor marketing, and an unappealing taste profile. Consumers complained it was either too bitter or oddly sweet, failing to replicate the fresh coffee experience. Moreover, the packaging felt uninspired and didn't resonate with younger audiences who were driving beverage innovation in the decade. The idea was ahead of its time, but the execution missed the cultural wave of cafe culture that surged later. By the end of the 1990s, the product was quietly withdrawn. Today, it serves as a reminder that innovation without alignment to consumer habits rarely succeeds.
PB Max, we mean peanut butter.
Nothing screams brilliant corporate decision-making quite like killing off a product people actually liked. PB Max, launched in the early 1990s, was a candy bar packed with peanut butter, oats, and a crunchy cookie base, all coated in milk chocolate. It sold incredibly well, proving that peanut butter and chocolate are a match made in heaven, something Reese's has been screaming for decades. But apparently, Mars executives weren't fans of peanut butter. Yes, really. So they axed the bar despite its success. Imagine a boardroom where personal taste outweighed millions in profit. PB Max didn't fail because of consumers. It failed because of executives with tragically picky palates. Corporate sabotage never tasted so sweet and bitter.
I thought I was the real Reggie. Reggie, it's everybody's kind of candy bar.
Slapping a baseball player's name on candy guarantees success, right? Wrong. In the late 1970s, Curtis Candy introduced this chocolate and caramel treat named after New York Yankees slugger Reggie Jackson. The bar even got a splashy debut. Fans at Yankee Stadium literally had them thrown into the stands. The problem was, the candy itself was underwhelming. A clunky mix of chocolate, peanuts, and caramel that felt more like an afterthought than a home run. Novelty carried it for about 5 minutes, but once the hype faded, consumers realized they could just buy a Snickers. The Reggie bar struck out spectacularly, proving star power can't fix a bland bite. If celebrity endorsements failed, would adults really line up to eat baby food in jars?
One of the biggest product fails ever has to be Gerber's Singles.
And now for the pièce de résistance of grocery store humiliation, Gerber Singles. Yes, in the 1970s, someone actually greenlit baby food for adults. Packaged in glass jars, just like baby formula, these delightful meals featured pureed favorites like beef burgundy and chickenella king, because who doesn't want to feel like a teething toddler during dinner? Marketed to single college students and young professionals, the concept tanked instantly. Unsurprisingly, adults weren't lining up to spoon mushy brown paste out of jars. It turns out grown-ups prefer chewing, flavor, and dignity. Gerber Singles is remembered less as a convenience food and more as the punchline of marketing gone horribly wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, behold, Colgate frozen lasagna.
Because when you think of a hearty dinner, the first flavor that comes to mind is toothpaste. In the 1980s, Colgate, yes, the people responsible for minty fresh smiles, decided to expand into frozen meals called Colgate Kitchen Entrees. The concept was simple: eat your lasagna, then brush with Colgate. The problem? Consumers couldn't shake the mental image of brushing their teeth with beef stroganoff. Unsurprisingly, shoppers were not interested in buying dinner from the same company that sold them cavity protection. The line collapsed almost immediately, leaving Colgate with nothing but a cautionary tale: stick to cleaning teeth, not clogging arteries. If minty meals didn't appeal, could a burger requiring assembly in separate compartments fare any better?
Did you hear about McDonald's new McDLT?
It could be the best tasting lettuce and tomato hamburger ever!
McDonald's once decided that burgers needed engineering, not flavor. Enter the McDLT in the mid-1980s, served in an oversized styrofoam clamshell with one side kept hot, the beef patty, and the other kept cool, the lettuce and tomato.
McDonald's wants you to join McDLT.
The hot stays hot and the cool stays cool. You get a quarter pound of beef on the hot side.
Customers were supposed to assemble the two halves themselves because apparently fast food wasn't supposed to be fast anymore. The packaging was excessive, the process awkward, and the burger itself, still just a burger. Add in mounting backlash against styrofoam waste, and the MCDLT became more complicated than convenient. It turns out nobody needed a do-it-yourself kit for a cheeseburger. Who knew?
Pizza mix that rates is Chef Boyardee.
Get Chef Boyardee Complete Pizza Mix.
Because nothing screams Italian authenticity, like a cardboard box of powder and a can of tomato goo. Chef Boyardee's pizza mix, introduced in the 1950s, promised families the joy of homemade pizza. If by homemade you mean kneading questionable dough and drowning it in bland sauce with rubbery cheese. For a hot second, the novelty of DIY pizza sounded fun. But then frozen pizzas and delivery options arrived, exposing just how sad this box really was. Compared to a crisp, bubbling pizza from the oven or a pizzeria, Chef Boyardee's kit felt like culinary punishment. It lingered in pantries, reminding everyone that some family fun nights taste like cardboard and regret. And if DIY pizza wasn't enough, what about a chips company trying to quench thirst instead of cravings? Because after eating salty chips, what beverage pairs best? Apparently, Frito-Lay thought the answer was lemonade. Yes, the snack giant famous for Doritos and Cheetos tried to step into the beverage aisle, and the result was as awkward as dipping tortilla chips into orange juice. Consumers were baffled. Why buy lemonade from the same brand that dusts your fingers in neon cheese powder? Worse yet, the lemonade itself was forgettable, neither tart nor refreshing enough to stand out in an already crowded market. Unsurprisingly, shoppers passed, and Frito-Lay slunk back to the salty snack section where it belonged. Stick to chips, guys. Nobody asked for citrus. Nothing says refreshing innovation quite like taking cola, stripping it of its caramel color, and leaving behind confusion. Launched in the early 1990s, Crystal Pepsi promised purity, clarity, and health vibes, because everyone drinks soda for wellness, right? Unfortunately, while it looked like Sprite, it still tasted vaguely like flat Pepsi that had been through a Brita filter. The marketing blitz was massive. Remember that Van Halen jingle? But curiosity turned to disappointment with every sip. Consumers couldn't reconcile cola flavor in a clear liquid, and sales tanked quickly. Pepsi tried to re-release it later as a nostalgia stunt, but history had already declared it a transparent disaster. If clear cola confused everyone, what if you added caffeine to breakfast and called it a morning revolution?
Pepsi AM was a version of Pepsi that was meant to be drank during the morning hours.
Because nothing screams balanced breakfast like washing down your eggs with a glass of syrupy cola. In the late 1980s, Pepsi introduced Pepsi AM, a soda boasting 28% more caffeine, specifically targeted as a morning beverage. The logic was simple. Replace your coffee with cola and start your day with tooth decay. Unsurprisingly, the idea bombed. Coffee loyalists stuck with their mugs, while soda drinkers didn't want to drink Pepsi with their cereal. The product fizzled out almost immediately, remembered mostly as a marketing punchline. It turns out people didn't want to rethink breakfast. They just wanted their caffeine without the sugar coma. Who could have guessed?
Aspen is here, crisp and crystal clear. Aspen.
Behold, Aspen Soda, PepsiCo's bold late 1970s gamble that America was desperately craving fizzy apple juice. Spoiler, it wasn't. Marketed as a crisp, refreshing alternative to traditional colas, Aspen aimed to give consumers something different. And different it was, different enough that hardly anyone bought it. Apple, while delightful in pies and ciders, didn't translate into a soda people wanted to sip alongside their burgers. Its overly sweet, oddly artificial flavor sealed its fate. After a short, unimpressive run, Aspen vanished, becoming a nostalgic footnote for soda collectors. Sometimes being unique is just a polite way of saying nobody liked it.
And shares our belief that things are going to be okay.
OK Soda may be Coca-Cola's most ironic failure, literally. Launched in the mid-1990s, this gloomy, irony-soaked brand was aimed at disaffected Gen X teens, complete with cryptic slogans like, "Don't be okay." The can designs featured edgy artwork, and the whole vibe screamed rebellion. Unfortunately, the soda inside tasted like a bland, vaguely citrusy chemical experiment, and the marketing came off as more patronizing than cool. Gen X wasn't impressed. They weren't looking for existential crisis in a can. Despite the hype, the product never spread beyond a handful of test markets. In the end, OK Soda was anything but okay. It was a spectacular misread of an entire generation. And when irony failed, what about a drink with floating blobs that looked like a lava lamp?
Today I got Orbits the drink. This came out in 1997.
For anyone who ever looked at a lava lamp and thought, "Wow, I'd love to drink that," Orbits was your moment. Released in the mid-1990s, this bizarre beverage contained floating, gelatinous balls suspended in a clear, syrupy liquid. Marketed as texturally enhanced refreshment, it was really just liquid regret in a bottle. The flavors, like vanilla orange and pineapple banana cherry coconut, sounded like mad scientist mashups, and the slimy, chewy blobs freaked out more taste buds than they delighted. It wasn't soda, it wasn't juice, and it definitely wasn't appealing. Consumers took one look and said, "No thanks, I'll pass on drinking my desk lamp." Orbits orbited straight into the landfill within a year.
Remember Haagen-Dazs black walnut ice cream?
Because nothing screams indulgence like chewing on bitter walnuts while pretending it's dessert. Haagen-Dazs tried to convince people that black walnut ice cream was going to be the next big, sophisticated flavor. Unfortunately, instead of rich and refined, it came across as Grandma's freezer experiment. Walnuts aren't exactly the candy of the nut world, and their earthy, slightly astringent taste didn't win over ice cream lovers craving something sweet and creamy. While Haagen-Dazs had hits with flavors like vanilla bean and chocolate chip, black walnut was destined to gather frost in freezers before disappearing altogether. A short-lived reminder that not every nut deserves its own pint.
Make some fun. You've already made the neighborhood fun.
If you ever wanted your dessert to taste like Sunday's leftover casserole, Jell-O had you covered in the 1960s. With savory salad gelatin flavors like celery and mixed vegetable, the brand tried to reinvent gelatin as a respectable side dish. The idea was to let homemakers suspend vegetables in quivering green molds for the ultimate dinner table. Wow! Spoiler, the only wow was horror. Nobody wanted to eat wobbly, celery-flavored cubes or peas trapped in translucent goo. It was marketed as sophisticated cuisine, but it landed more as a cafeteria punishment. Unsurprisingly, these nightmare flavors vanished quickly, cementing their legacy as Jell-O's most questionable experiment.
O.J. Oh, that's O.J. Joe, rounding up oranges for Kellogg's.
In the 1980s, Kellogg's attempted a bold experiment. OJ's Cereal, an orange juice-flavored breakfast cereal. The concept was to combine the taste of orange juice with the crunch of cereal, marketed as a way to simplify breakfast. However, consumers quickly rejected the idea. Orange juice was cherished as a refreshing drink, but translating its tart citrus flavor into crunchy cereal rings created an odd clash with milk, the default cereal companion. The flavor profile was described as artificial, overpowering, and downright unpleasant when mixed with dairy. Parents and kids alike found the cereal unappealing, and sales never took off. Within a short time, Kellogg's discontinued OJ's, quietly moving on to more conventional hits like Frosted Flakes and Corn Pops. Today, OJ's is remembered as one of the strangest cereal experiments in grocery history. A miscalculation that proved not all breakfast staples should be fused together.
So creamy. Watch it disappear.
Nothing says fun family activity like spending 45 minutes trying to assemble a dessert that tastes only slightly better than cardboard. Frozen yogurt pie kits hit grocery shelves in the 1980s, promising do-it-yourself creamy pies with crunchy crusts. The problem? Consumers quickly realized that ready-made frozen pies were faster, less messy, and actually tasted good. Kids didn't want to measure, scoop, and freeze. They just wanted dessert now. Parents didn't want to clean up after a failed experiment in yogurt engineering. The kits lingered briefly on shelves before being quietly retired, proving that innovation is sometimes just a polite way of saying, why bother? DIY desserts rarely beat convenience, no matter how fun the packaging. If assembling your dessert was too much work, what about freezing pudding onto sticks for instant gratification?
New chocolate-covered Jell-O brand pudding pop, creamy inside,
Crunchy outside.
Here's a nostalgic twist gone slightly wrong. Pudding pops, invented by Jell-O in the 1980s, were frozen pudding on a stick, a genius idea that initially delighted kids everywhere. Chocolate and vanilla flavors flew off the shelves as mini frozen desserts. But by the 1990s, freezers and consumer tastes had evolved, and ice cream bars dominated the snack aisle. Pudding pops melted too quickly, lacked the crunch and excitement of chocolate-coated alternatives, and were seen as an outdated novelty. Even beloved brands can't fight the tide of trends.
Jell-O pudding pops, frozen pudding on a stick.
I want one.
You want one?
Eventually, production stopped, leaving adults to reminisce about awkwardly sticky popsicles while kids moved on to more exciting frozen treats. nostalgia tastes sweeter than pudding pops ever did. When frozen treats lost their charm, could a galaxy far, far away bring breakfast excitement?
We'll call them C-3POs.
New C-3PO cereal from Kellogg's.
Nothing fuels a galactic empire like twin ring-shaped breakfast cereal. In the early 1980s, C-3PO's cereal launched as a Star Wars tie-in, riding the wave of Return of the Jedi mania. Gold-colored rings and sugary cereal promised fans a morning worthy of a Jedi Knight, or at least a droid. Unfortunately, the hype faded faster than lightsaber batteries, and kids soon realized that even a Star Wars logo couldn't make sugar-laden loops exciting for long. Production stopped shortly after the movie's popularity waned, leaving collectors with empty nostalgia boxes and parents questioning why they bought a droid-shaped breakfast. C-3PO may have been golden, but breakfast glory? Far from it. And if droid-shaped rings didn't last, would candy-inspired cereals finally win kids over?
Big question about new nerd cereal is, which side?
Obviously, the world needed a cereal version of one of the most hyperactive candies ever. Nerds. Cereal arrived with twin flavors in each box, crunchy little sugar bombs promising extreme sweetness and energy. The problem? It was too much, even for children. Parents balked at the sugar overload, dentists shuddered, and kids eventually found it overwhelming. The gimmick of pairing two flavors was more confusing than clever, leaving cereal bowls full of sticky, chaotic clusters. Marketing tried to position it as fun and exciting, but consumers quickly realized it was just hyper sugar in a box. Nerds. Cereal fizzled as fast as the candy itself melts on a hot day, sticky, chaotic, and regrettable.
Dennis, what's so funny?
Morning funny cereal, Mr. Wilson.
Nothing says start your day right like sticky sugar loops and a forced laugh. Morning Funny's cereal launched in the 1980s with the novel idea of printing comic strips on the boxes. The concept? Kids would supposedly enjoy breakfast while giggling at mini stories. Reality? The cereal itself was bland, overly sweet, and underwhelming. The comics were small, unreadable, and failed to distract from the disappointment of soggy loops and milk. Parents hated cleaning up spilled cereal, and kids quickly lost interest. Despite the creative packaging, Morning Funny cereal didn't last long on store shelves. It serves as a reminder that adding a joke to your breakfast box does not make a successful cereal. And if jokes weren't enough, would surprise-filled cereal finally thrill kids at the table?
Part of this balanced breakfast. Hidden treasure.
Who doesn't love a little mystery with their morning meal? Hidden treasures. Cereal promised excitement by stuffing each piece with surprise fillings: fruit, chocolate, or marshmallow. Unfortunately, what seemed like a fun concept turned chaotic fast. Biting into cereal could mean delicious chocolate or equally disappointing cardboard-like interiors. The inconsistencies frustrated both kids and parents, leaving them unsure what they were actually eating. Marketing hype couldn't overcome reality. Breakfast is stressful enough without Russian roulette cereal. Retailers quietly pulled the product, realizing that unpredictability is best left to games, not nutrition. Hidden treasures earned its place in grocery history as a well-intentioned innovation that became a breakfast gamble nobody wanted to take.
Kids of America, your best friend's a cow! Crazy cow!
Because plain milk is apparently too boring for the modern child, Crazy Cow cereal promised to magically transform it into strawberry or chocolate flavor. The concept wowed kids at first, turning mornings into a colorful milk rainbow experiment. Parents, however, were less thrilled. The artificial flavors and sugary additives made milk less nutritious and more of a dessert disguised as breakfast. Cleanup was messy, and the cereal lacked any real appeal beyond novelty. Initial excitement faded quickly, leaving bowls of colored milk abandoned in sink after sink. Crazy Cow cereal became a classic case of a gimmick too wild for practicality. Fun for a minute, but an unappetizing headache for anyone over the age of 10.